Hello, everyone. It's Maureen with the Power of the Tribe Network and the Rising Star Book Club. And today I have Mark Steele. Mark Steele is first of all, TEDx speaker. He's a leader. He's an inspirational leader and keynote speaker. And his book, Invincible Success, well, we're going to get right into it because it is a guided manual that'll actually, whether you're a leader, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're an entrepreneur, it's simple but really strategic words that will transform your life and position you for success. So welcome. Hello, Mark. Thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I'm delighted to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. So it's great to talk to you.
Okay, so first of all, I believe we need to start this off right. And from the book, that when you have you're in front of a large audience, you often have them do an exercise to shake them, to ground them, and to inspire them. It has to do with the title of your book a little, if I'm not hinting. Can we do that now?
Sure. You want to do it together?
Let's do this together.
Well, first, let me give a moment of context, and then we'll do it all together, just so your listeners will at least know why they're being asked to do it. So when I was a kid, I would always run around the house, climbing on anything that I could climb on. And anytime I would climb up, I would shout, "I am invincible." And I believed with all of my heart that I was invincible. That was my word that I went to. And of course, as kids grow up, you tend to get away from that. People make fun of it. You just kind of lose the enthusiasm around it. And it wasn't until more recently, over the last 4 or 5 years, that memory came back to me, and it hit me of like, well, how am I not still invincible? How are we all not invincible? And it really is developing a mindset, a belief that we can take on anything that we can take on. So now with that context, when I speak in front of audiences, I love to start off, and for me, I actually climb up on a chair on stage, and at the top of my lungs, I put my arms way up in the air, and I shout, "I am invincible." So I encourage all your listeners right now, wherever you are, whether you're in the car, you're at the gym, wherever you may be, just take a moment, put your arms up in the air, and repeat, "I am invincible."
I am invincible.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of energy that is generated by a group of people, a crowd of people, all standing, yelling that they are invincible.
Okay, I love it, and I couldn't think of a better way to start it off. So let's start a little bit from the beginning. And okay, so you're in Chicago.
Yes.
Newly married?
Not so newly. We actually just celebrated our 21st anniversary together.
Okay, but you were in Chicago, and this is the piece and that nugget I can't wait to ask you about. But you were in there, and you were actually going after an acting career.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Lean into that. I can't. I've been waiting. I've been waiting to ask you on that because it was just mentioned. But I have. So you were there waiting on it. You were trying to go for an acting career, right?
Yeah. And I had. Sorry, I was going to say I had studied theater in both high school as well as college. I went to a community college. I did community theater around Michigan and down in Florida for a period of time, and I actually moved to Chicago to try to bridge the gap from more rural community theater or smaller theater into bigger professional theater, and then on to what I really wanted to do was do film work, television work. I really wanted to make my life as an actor. And I moved to Chicago, and within probably, I would say about 7 months, I met a girl. And I met a wonderful woman named Jody, and she had a 5-year-old son. And we, I mean, just like you see only in the movies, we actually fell in love almost instantly. Within the first couple of days, not just dates, the first couple of days, we were already joking about flying off to Vegas and getting married together. It was that strong. But it threw everything from my career perspective into a little bit of a unexpected turn. And a short time after that, I was doing some temp work through a temporary agency, and I got placed at Microsoft, one of their offices in Chicago, just answering phones. And fast forward about a year of just doing that temp work while I'm doing some theater in the evening and spending time with the woman who would become my wife and my new son. I was offered a job to come to work for Microsoft, and I felt I was thrilled, of course, but I also was completely out of my element. And as we often do, I said, okay, I'll probably do this for a year or two, earn a little bit of money. And it turned into a 15-year sales career, highly successful, and went on to sell over $1 billion in sales while at Microsoft.
Okay, so let's pick this apart a little bit here. So you were on a path with something you loved doing, and then love came into your life, and you had to adapt and again grow and learn something new. And within that, then, and now we know Microsoft, again, it's one of those iconic companies of perfection, of like really having amazing talent. And it's just not an ordinary place to be. You have to be extraordinary to be there. And this wasn't your background, as we know. So within that, but then the piece I'm trying to get to is that you said, great, that I'm going to shift and I'm going to go and I'm going to just stand forward in this, because that's what you do with life when you adapt and you then continue to move and learn. So within that in Microsoft, then here you are, an actor, which it is all good to be an actor, right? And so then you're doing the phones, right? You're doing the phones. You're like, all right, I can answer phones. Then tell us what happened.
So what happened I didn't have, it wasn't a full-time gig of just answering phones. I had a little extra time on my hands. The phones didn't ring all the time. And so I found myself actually picking up some of the books that Microsoft has laying around, as you would expect, really around technology. And I just kind of started getting immersed in some of the reading and learning about everything that was possible with computers. It was really my first exposure to it. And based on that, I started volunteering to help out at trade shows, product launches. And that's how I got noticed by a particular sales manager that was starting a new team of evangelists to go out and tell the Microsoft story to IT professionals or information technology professionals. And he really took a chance on me to completely surprise me with offering me the opportunity. He said, how would you like to go to work? And I later asked him, what was it about me? And he said, you were hired to answer the phones, and yet every time I saw you, you were learning more about as much as you could about Microsoft and volunteering to be a part of our success in ways that weren't even your part of your job. And that really gave him the confidence that no matter what, I was going to help the team be successful. And that's really why he took a chance on me.
Well, okay. And that's great, because there's some principles that start opening up in the book and what this is saying. So you showed up. And within that, then that whole piece of also, obviously lifelong learning is a piece in there too, to keep moving in your journey. But let's get into the piece about your purpose. Why is purpose so important?
Purpose really guides all of our intention, all of our actions, of understanding why it is you do what you do. What is it that you're passionate about? What would you want to do regardless of whether you got paid to do it or not? What do you feel deep in your soul? And of course, there's career purpose. What do you want to do when you go to work and how you earn money? But at the same time, we need a sense of purpose in our family life, in our free time as well. But for me, one key purpose for me, even though I wanted to be an actor, it really came down to I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to be able to serve people in as big of fashion as possible. And that's what I loved about the stage is being able to connect with that audience and be able to tell them a story, make them feel something different than when they arrived. And I was applying that same thing even to the temp job where I was answering the phones. I was thinking about how can I better connect to the people that I serve here at Microsoft, the teams that I support by answering the phones. How it looks like they're launching a new product. How can I better serve them? How can I help them be more successful? And it was really that sense of purpose of connecting and serving that drove my entire successful career at Microsoft. But it certainly started me off. That's what got me noticed, and had that manager reach out to me. And that's one of the key principles that I try to share in the book, is really around understanding that sense of purpose and leaning into it to its fullest extent possible.
And I'm opening with that again, serving others and not being about you. But then you also, and there's so many just really great principles to be able to guide and for success. But we're talking about serving, but then the other piece that you really, there's many pieces, but there's that piece of how do you listen, and how does that change your results, or more pertinently, how does it help you serve others for then leading towards success?
Yeah, for me, I learned a very big lesson. So I was hired to, as I shared, I was hired to be an evangelist, to just go out and talk to, use my background to go out and get in front of audiences of information technology professionals and talk about Microsoft products. But within a year, or just a year later, that job was eliminated across the company. And I was completely surprised by the same manager one day said, "You're doing a great job. You are now in a sales role." And just because that's what my new job became when the old job was eliminated. And I was afraid. I couldn't imagine how I could be successful at Microsoft in a sales role with no sales background, no business background, really no computer background. I had nothing of what I thought would be required skills for that job. I wanted to do a great job. I tried to do a great job, but my first year, I came in at 57% of my sales target, which was terrible, and I couldn't continue with that by any stretch of the means. And I was panicked, and so I went to another sales professional that was clearly doing a much better job than I was. His name was Michael, and I came to him and I said, "Michael, I'm trying everything. What do I do? I'm doing everything I can, no matter what I try. All my presentations, it's just nobody wants a second meeting." And Michael said to me, he said, "Do you want to be great at sales? Stop trying to be great at sales, become great at serving your customer. And that it was like a lightning bolt. I didn't even fully understand what it meant, but I knew that I could do. I could go back to what what I was good at. And first and foremost, you can't serve anybody unless you listen to them, unless you understand what they need. And that the first two key principles in the book is really around becoming an expert at not only listening to feel what the other person is saying, not just hear them, but to feel them, to completely understand them, but then also become an expert at asking great questions. And you really, whether you're a salesperson, a leader, anyone that wants to move someone in your speaking or whatever in your community work, it's around being able to ask great questions, identify what their need is, and then being able to help build your solution or your skill set into that particular need of theirs. It's all about listening and understanding.
And those questions are all about finding out how you can support and serve them.
Yes, it's and so many, of course, I'm not the first person to say, hey, you need to listen, you need to ask questions. Especially in sales, you get told that nearly every day. But too often we really assume we're great at that. You're asking me questions right now. They're great questions, but we do it every single day. So when we hear it, we almost dismiss it as like, of course you ask questions. Of course I listen. But are you really stopping in that moment? Anytime you meet with your customer, whether you're meeting them for the first time and they're a potential customer, or you've been serving them for 20 years, are you, every single time you talk to them, are you stopping to take the time to ask them new questions, ask them about how they're doing in this difficult time, ask them what's going on, how can you better serve them, and those types of questions, and then stop talking so that they can talk to you, they can listen to you. Too often we rush through that process.
And I'm going to jump ahead in the book, but there was a really important nugget about also taking the time to learn someone's name. And you go into that a little bit, and that, so within that, give us that, and then we'll go back to more of the principles. But so people say, oh, I don't know his name. How important is it when someone says, and they meet you and you come back and say, wow, Mark, it's good to see you again. Let's lean into that a little.
Study after study shows that the most important word in the English language is your name. You are highly tuned to hearing your name. I'm sure it's happened to you over and over again where you're at a a busy store or something like that, and you'll hear something that may have sounded like Maureen, and you'll stop what you're doing. You'll immediately turn in that direction because you're just highly tuned to respond to your name. And so upon understanding that that's such an easy way to connect to people, and yet we take it for granted. We'll say when we come into the room of a presentation or a customer meeting, we might say, hello, Maureen, how are you? And then we'll never again say your name again because we said it once, or we won't be intentional about it. And so I started to play a little game with myself. I started to create a cheat sheet. Of course, you start a meeting, it's 10 strangers in a room and me at the front of the room or something like that. As we go around and introduce ourselves, I created a little piece of paper in the shape of the conference room or the table that we're sitting at. And I would put the names in the correct pattern on that piece of paper. And that way, when I'm talking, and I have a story to tell or I want to make a connection, I would just glance down at that piece of paper and I would say, well, Pat, let's say, for example, you wanted to grow your sales. What would you do today? Or Chris, what would you do? And it's just that simple little thing that too often the people that we're talking to may start to wander off. They'll think about the 100 emails that may have come in or text messages that they're missing or things that may have been going on at home or the gallon of milk they have to buy on the way home. And just by doing something as simple as connecting with them, using their name, it brings them right back into the room with you, completely focused on what you're saying. And it's just such an easy trick. We take it for granted.
And I just thought that was just so important. And that having that diagram. I usually say someone's name 3 times in my head, but again, with a room like that, it's brilliant, brilliant. So you touched on a little bit with when you went to Mike, right? And you said you reached out to him. Well, the importance of network, of surrounding yourself and building that. Let's talk about how significant not only to ask for help and support others, but what's the importance of network and in life and in
Right.
your book?
It for me, I learned a little too late in the game. Even though I had gone to Michael, and Michael had immediately, very early in my career, my sales career, had made a big impact. I still didn't get it, the power of your network, and not just to help you and answer questions and things like that, but to just make your life so much richer by the people that you're having conversations with or surrounding yourself with, and seeing their successes, spurring on your own successes. It wasn't until later on in my career, it took me another probably 4 or 5 years, where I really started to see the power of making very intentional connections. And again, it wasn't about, hey, I want a different job, and so I'm going to connect with this person because they're in the job I want, or it's really around, both from a standpoint of who do I want to emulate? Who's the type of person, both from a career standpoint and what I may know about their success in their own families and personal lives. Who do I want to be able to bring into my circle, just so it pushes me to strive for more in my career and in my life. And it wasn't until I became much more intentional about just always making connections, and genuinely asking people about them, and helping, trying to understand them better, so that I too can provide support and service to them, that my career really started to thrive. Again, not only did I uncover new opportunities, but just it made going to work all that much more incredible, because I was meeting all of these just wonderfully successful people that genuinely wanted to help me be successful. And the same thing, once I left Microsoft 3 years ago and decided to start my own speaking and consulting business, I did the same thing using LinkedIn, and just became very intentional about who I was connecting with. And soon I was meeting so many people that were just saying, how can I help you? Who can I connect you with? Who can I refer you to? What type of customer are you looking for? And I couldn't have been nearly as successful as quickly, or having as much fun, if I wasn't really leveraging the power of the network.
And so again, the power of the tribe is all about the people you
Yeah.
surround yourself with. So we so align with that. But it's also your intention, whether it's your intention of how you looked at in your book, how you looked at your customer to serve them, and or that the intention when you're networking is again, it's not necessarily results driven intention. It's to get to truly just allow that to be and know them. Can you go into how that's such a different emphasis and what that opens up in your life?
Yeah, and I started to speak to it around that it isn't just about connecting to people because I want a new job and they're in the job that I want. It really is around surrounding yourself, just like you're saying, with the power of the tribe, is surrounding yourself with like-minded people that want to be successful at their own selves, but then also are committed to helping others be successful as well. And just finding that circle of friends, of peers, colleagues, leaders, and making sure that you're thoughtful around setting up time with them, whether that's once a month or something like that. I above and beyond just spending time together, develop both mentorship as well as become a mentor to others, because for sure there are other people that are just like you were, wanting to be more successful, wanting to make things easier on their journey at work or in the community, wherever it may be. And you should very much, or you have the power to be able to make other people's lives so much better just by sharing what you've learned and easing the path for them. So it can't be overstated how powerful it is to find the right people and just focus on how you can help them be more successful.
And I was just pulling up a note because it was just so poignant. There was the line that a clear vision does not just help you prepare for the future, it helps you get there. And the other and this was the piece that just, so when you help others to discover the undiscovered, you help them see what they're not able to see for themselves. That was just just a moment I had to stop. And within that, again, we're coming back to a place of leading with generosity, of being outwardly focused, and I just so brilliant. So can you lean into that a little bit more? And I just was really floored. It just really hit home.
I so appreciate you sharing that. Another one of the principles in the book is really around bold vision, and it builds on each one of the principles that I share. Really builds on the other principles that we spoke about. So certainly the networking, the learning, the asking questions and listening, but talking about bold vision, and there are different facets of visions, but one of the big ones is that when we have the intention of serving others, whether that's a customer or our team or colleagues, peers, whatever it may be, too often we take for granted what we know. We either assume everybody else knows it, or we try way too hard to think that we've got to come up with something that nobody has ever said before. But you just trust in your vision and push yourself to be able to share a vision for where you want to take that customer relationship or that peer relationship, or what you want to do as a leader, and into things that they may not be seeing for themselves, things if they for example, I talk about in the book, if a customer comes to you and says, I need my people to be more productive, it's really you can immediately say, okay, good, I can help you be more productive. Or you can really lean into that. You can embrace that opportunity to be bold in your vision and say, not only can we make you more productive, but we can actually reduce your costs while doing so and make your employees feel more valued and respected. So, and it's really around challenging yourself to guide your customers or your teams in ways in which they aren't seeing for themselves. And that's what I was talking about is around helping them discover what's possible in ways that they couldn't even imagine today. Don't just respond to what they're asking for. Really push yourself to try to differentiate yourself by going beyond what they're asking for and say, well, what if we could do that and more? And that's really how you can offer tremendous value to those you serve.
Just and so important, and that with having leaders in this time. But you have someone that says, "Okay, Mark, yeah, sure, that's easy for you. You're a billion-dollar sales guy, and you landed in Microsoft, and none of that is actually really easy to do there. But where do I even start? And maybe, I don't have customers, or it maybe doesn't fit. So how can anyone take your book and your principles and apply it to make them life more successful and life better?"
So for to begin with, let's start with yourself. My TEDx, you mentioned that I was a TEDx speaker. My TEDx was around taking small steps, using small steps to reach big goals. And so I'm all about micro steps. I'm all about breaking things down to as small as possible new habit for yourself in order to eventually get where you want to go. And you mentioned some of the other authors you've had on. Suzanne Nance is an incredible author. She climbed Mount Everest, among many others. And she did that through a series of small steps. And the wonderful thing that I'd say about where do you start is start with yourself. Start with setting a bold vision for yourself instead of just saying, well, I want 20 new clients by next year. Okay, that would be great. But what would be bold? What vision, what challenge would scare you to try to accomplish? And then set that goal, that bold vision, and then just break it down. Like, in order to get there, what new habit or what thing do I need to do differently today that I'm not doing already? And you won't always know the perfect answer, but the perfect first step is the one you do. And so don't let trying to figure out the perfect first thing to do get in the way of you just doing something. You can always adjust as you go forward to keep you on path. But don't too often people will say, well, I could do this, or I could do that, or maybe if I start by doing all this marketing on Facebook or whatever it may be, just do one thing and develop that new habit for yourself, and then push yourself to more and more and more. And that's how you reach your bold visions.
I love that, because we're giving people a place to start. So within that, we're not going to not talk a little bit about, again, you being a leader and standing for others. This is what your book does. But you even stood up this when I mean, again, we're still into COVID, right? And a lot of people are looking for leadership, and then there's some that take the stand to lead. When did you even start writing this book? And then tell us about that pivot.
When I left the corporate world in the fall of 2017, and I knew that I wanted to speak about things that I was passionate about, I wanted to develop my keynote speaking practice, my sales consulting. One of the first things that I set a goal for myself was to write a book. And I'll be honest with you, Maureen, I had no idea what that book would be about. There wasn't a single thought in my head of exactly what it would be, I didn't have any idea that it would be sales and leadership principles, that it would pull from my career in my corporate career. And yet I knew that I wanted to become a best-selling author. That was my goal. And part of it was just at the time it was to just check a box of saying, well, if I want to be a speaker, I should have a book, because that's what speakers do, is they have a book. And so it took me about a year before I started anything whatsoever. So in probably the spring of 2018, that's where I first sat down and said, okay, if I were to write something, what would it be? And I started to at that time just rough out some chapters, and just it wasn't until I had been writing for probably 3 months that it even really occurred to me that this would be a sales and leadership book. I just started pushing myself, just like I was talking about a moment ago, just pushing myself to write about the things that I was passionate about. And it took me some time to figure out exactly how to organize that, or to wrap some structure around that. And then I got to go back and kind of fix some of the things in the beginning, that now that I had more intention and understanding of exactly what the intention of the book was, I could make some changes to the front to be able to support what I was now doing. So all in all, it took me about a year to write the book, and then I spent probably another month or so going back and making some changes to the grammar and improving the structure and adding a few things here and there.
So, but all of the things that you are in the book, you practice in your life. You said,
Oh,
I'm
for
going
sure.
to start a project. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm going to start. And also, in that piece, did you also look for a mentor in your writing your book, or again, saying, let me allow my network to find someone that will show me what this means and what this looks like?
Yes, for sure. Again, not knowing exactly where to start, I first reached out to a business coach, or started doing some work with a business coach. Her name is Sarah Victory, a wonderful woman. She's also a best-selling author. And she was helping me develop my speaking message a little bit. And through some of that work that we were doing together, that's where I started to refine the Invincible success principles, where we started to figure out exactly what key principles from my corporate career that made sense, that helped me be successful, how to put those together in a keynote program. And then Sarah recommended a wonderful woman named Rebecca Hall-Greuter to me, that she helps authors bring their book forward. And upon connecting with Rebecca, Rebecca was fantastic in helping me kind of take my overall keynote and the message of the things that I wanted to talk about, and helping me get it into book form. And it's really those two pivotal connections, again, the power of the network, that really helped me bring it to light.
With that being said, that's why your book is so powerful. It's a book that you can actually live by and help you move forward. With now that the piece here, that you also get into being authentic, using integrity, and also the power of storytelling. And the storytelling is your story. So with being authentic and telling your story, but staying in integrity with yourself, tell us where that just grounds you, and how that, again, lean into that for me.
Yeah. For me, if there's one thing, again, I didn't have the same background at Microsoft that other people had, but if I point my success to maybe two things at Microsoft, first and foremost was that willingness to always lean in and figure out how best I could serve others. That grounded me and helped drive me through my entire 15-year career. But what made me successful with customers is really around the power of authentic storytelling. It's around, and people sometimes, the clients that I now work with, and sometimes you hear storytelling and you go, oh, well, how can that be authentic? It's like it's making up stories. And it is authentic storytelling. It's learning how to tell true stories in a way that moves your customer, your team, your colleagues, your peers, whoever it is that you serve, to want to act on what you're saying. And that really is such a critical component of sales and leadership, certainly. It's around being able to put your true self in front of people in a meaningful way, but with the intention of getting some action based on what you're doing. And so I put the sort of the key things that I've learned in my 15-year career in the book around storytelling. It's around connecting your product, your service, your offering to their need, whatever that may be. And we already talked about how we identify those needs through our questions and listening, but being able to connect it directly in a way that compels your customer, your team member, to want to move forward, to want to be inspired as to accepting your vision of like, how can I make that happen? What do I need to do? And that's really the true power that we have, is being able to connect what our gift, our offering, our product to their need in a way that they can see, yeah, I can do that. I can have that for myself. I want to offer that to my people. And so that storytelling is such an important piece of any salesperson, entrepreneur, or leader.
Again, we've just touched on some of the principles, but the power of your book, Invincible Success, is actually giving others the tools to move forward in and finding their vision, standing in their power, connecting with others, and becoming successful in whatever they're doing. I'm so grateful for your leadership and leading from a place of generosity. So what's next? Okay, we're getting to the year. We've had the big launch, ridiculously international bestseller status. What's next?
Yeah, the launch was just a couple months ago, back in August. It exceeded all expectations. It went on to be an international or bestseller in 9 different countries. #1 bestseller in 9 different countries. Who's keeping track, though? But because of that, I'm now kind of double clicking down onto the sales component of the book. The current book, Invincible Success, Sell with Confidence, Lead with Purpose, and Speak with Impact. It's really those 6 key principles that would help anyone in sales leadership. And if you speak in front of others, I'm now doing a 3-book series specifically on sales. And the first one is really leaning into the paradigm that we all find ourselves in right now, is around building meaningful virtual connections, being able to take that storytelling, that vision, that question asking that we were talking about, but doing that when you may be on the other side of the country or the other side of the world from the person, and still be able to be highly effective at doing that. So that's what the first book is really all about, is helping you do what you would normally do in a room with somebody and yet still be highly effective, even if you're on the other side of the other side of the world from them.
So again, adapting and embracing where you are, and I can't wait. So I get to get you back because I got another book coming here. I can't wait. So
Indeed.
how can people find you, work with you, and where are you?
My website is marksteel.com. So MARKSTEEL.com. No E on the end of steel. People like to sneak one in there, but Mark Steel with no E. I'm most active on LinkedIn at Steel Speaking is my URL, LinkedIn or whatever. Steel Speaking is my handle there. Same thing on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'm most active on LinkedIn, but trying to step it up on the other platforms as well. If you want to work with me, anyone can reach out to me, mark@marksteel.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a message. And if you go to my website, you'll see information about Invincible Success, the book and the podcast, but the book, and you'll be able to sign up to be notified when the next one comes out.
Okay, I can't wait. So we'll be looking forward to that. I look forward. I'm going to get you back then because we have to continue, using these amazing tools. Thank you for coming on. It's really a pleasure for my audience. And get the book, Invincible Success. Everyone, Mark Steele. And happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Thank you, Marie. Thanks for having me. And I thank all your listeners for tuning in. This was a lot of fun.
Good. We always have to have fun. Okay, everyone. So next week, Maureen saying, I'll see you soon.